This story is going to be a little bit tougher for me to tell, but however, yeah, I'm still shaken up. However, there were such profound inexplicables with this particular story that I think it needs to be told. However, it's going to be rather tough for me to talk about because I'm still shaken up about it. What happened a year ago today, and I just missed being killed in a rather horrible way by the grace of God, the universe, a guardian angel who came in the form of a dear friend of mine, whatever you want to call it and consider it. Well, okay, I'll just go on and talk about the story. Last September 6th, there was a very warm, crazy day, over 95 degrees. I think it was almost 100 in my yard in the sun and in the shed. And this is the time of year that I start putting away. Oh, by the way, I do keep, excuse me, statues and different decorations for the seasons. Christmas decorations that are outdoors, autumn decorations that are outdoors, spring, what have you. My summer statuary, there's a couple of them over there. Anyway, this time of year is when I give the cottage, the shed, its final sweep before I put the statues and pack things in. So again, of course, I can't really be sweeping it until next spring or summer. And I had been working in there for 2 days, over several hours over 2 days. And I had gotten awfully hot, so I took a break. And I was going to be getting together with a dear friend of mine who I hadn't seen in over a decade. I believe it's 17 years it was. And so we had a really, really special time planned up in Maine. And we were going to be booking hotels. And I wanted to do it then because she was going to be coming very soon. And I was waiting for her to get back to me. And a storm started. And it was a fairly quick thunderstorm. And it passed by. So I was going to be heading out again to continue my work. And luckily, when you think about it, when you put all the pieces together, 1 second less and I would have been dead. I heard the ping of a message coming in. It was my friend, so I stopped and I answered her. And the storm rolled in again. And I do believe the last thing I say, I'll have to look back in Messenger, is, well, there's a storm raging out there right now, but I love thunderstorms. My electricity went out after I heard the loudest explosion I have ever heard in my whole entire life. Oh, my baby's over there. Hi, baby, I love you. Perfect timing on her. She knows she's a little ham. Anyway, so this explosion was so loud, I didn't jump from fear. It literally is like if you bang a table and there's something on the table and it leaps up from the actual, percussiveness. I found out why, because lightning, I have been told, maybe someone's going to correct me on the science of this, but what I had been told is the water and the sap of the tree, what feeds the tree, runs along the outer layer just in back of the bark. And when it was struck by lightning, the water gets heated up so much so that it just bursts the bark off the tree. And boy, I will tell you, I found pieces along my house. It had popped off the side of my house. I found pieces way down the middle of my driveway. Well, I jumped up to see what it possibly could have been that I heard. I knew it had to be something bad. And when I was looking out the window to see what had happened, where I had been standing in the shed for many hours over 2 days, there was a fireball. Somehow, I always had heard that lightning takes the path of least resistance. I guess it's not the quickest, but the path of least resistance. So apparently the path of least resistance to the ground was, and I'm facing on this because there's the stump of the tree and the original shed was back a little bit more. The path of least resistance to the ground apparently was through the vents on the shed and right through down to the ground and setting the shed on fire. Well, let me talk about, I have to clean up the shed. I actually don't know how much stuff I'm going to keep in there. And this is the thing that makes me angry is always, especially now with computers and cell phone iPhones, smartphones. Always keep track of everything that you have. Make photo records. Who takes pictures in a shed? I wish I had. It wasn't for insurance purposes because they could see and they believed me. What it is, and here come the other inexplicables about this. If I had had pictures of what the shed looked like before the fire, then you would see just how amazing this ended up being. Luckily, I have witnesses of, people who know me who had walked in the shed themselves and saw where things were, what had been damaged, what hadn't. So, here we go. After they put out the fire in the shed, I waited until the insurance adjuster came. Once he came, I walked in there and I saw the actual damage that had been done. I won't belabor the point too much because I don't want to make this endlessly long, but what I'll tell you is certain things just were vaporized from the heat of the lightning and the fireball. Some things melted, some things burned. Well, one wreath in particular that was just charcoal when I found it in there. The wreaths under it that I had made for the person I had been talking about in the Magic Butterfly video, those wreaths were untouched. Nothing. Nothing. Thankfully, luckily. The wreath that had absolutely been vaporized had a little cherub on it, and this little cherub miraculously survived. I really don't know how, because the wreath was charbroiled. I mean, it was just black and basically just falling apart if you touch it. This little cherub survived, and then I had a shelf above the window, which was where I was basically standing and working, and these 3 trees were on that shelf. The one in the middle, of course, you can see what happened. That's what the wreath looked like that had the cherub on it. And these 2 little trees were next to the tree on the shelf. So can someone please explain to me how that tree is charbroiled, and those trees ended up, when I started clearing out what was survived, they were tucked safely under several boxes, and they weren't even wet by the fire hose. So someone explain that one to me, please. And then the pièce de résistance was, when I walked out of the house, I had gone in to look for what had been damaged, what had survived, and I was just distraught and mostly petrified because that could have been me. I have gloves on. I've been working out in the yard, so don't mind my gloves. But this, when I turned around and saw what had miraculously survived, this was all of a sudden on the ground outside in front of the shed, and it had not been in there when I walked in the shed. So all I can say is, to quote Garfield, wow, nice touch. Well played, universe. Well played.